Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guy. Check this out. So I'm in my truck driving with my buddy, and we was heading up to the men's warehouse to fart in the suits, and he's listening to his phone, and I said, that sounds like Hermie Sadler. He said, it is Hermie Sadler. He's got a podcast called Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I said, Sadler and the Senator? He said, yeah, that's his good buddy, Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I said, well, what in the world? He didn't know this. I said, did you know that Hermie Sadler was voted one of the 50 best looking drivers in NASCAR? He said, I did not know that. I said, because it ain't true. You never know, though. He never takes off his helmet. But I know one thing, this show Leaning Right, Turning Left is good. So pull up a chair right there by your phone, get yourself a cold beer, and give a listen right here to this week's episode of Leaning Right, Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I'll tell you what, I bet Michael Waltrip's even listening. He's always wanted to do something like that. Oh, Sadler, got another one over on Waltrip. Get her done.
Thank you, Larry the Cable Guy. I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I'm Leaning Right, and Larry Cable Guy is... Larry Cable Guy? Larry the Cable Guy is right. Dang it.
You're off to a great start.
Keep going, Bill.
Neil, I'm Hermie Sadler, down in Emporia, and I am turning left. Leaning Right and Turning Left is back, once again, powered by Pace-O-Mat.
What do you say, Hermie Sadler?
Man, what a couple of days.
Yeah, you have had a great couple of days, man. I mean, this is what we now have to talk about here at this front end of the podcast. I want to welcome everybody to listening again to Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I'm Senator Bill Stanley with my buddy Hermie Sadler, who's got a new name, don't you?
You think?
I think so. Now, so the question is, and I want you to tell everybody, what happened over the weekend? Well, we've got a couple things, your family life, and then we've got, of course, the races that went on in this first segment. What happened over the weekend?
Well, we won the season finale in the Smart Modified Tour with Bobby Labonte. We'll talk about that. We had a couple of good runs. I would call them decent runs in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour race at Martinsville back Thursday of last week. But the biggest news for me came about 2:35 a.m. on Sunday morning. And that was my oldest daughter, Cora, gave birth to my very first grandchild.
Congratulations.
My granddaughter. And they named her River Bell. My mom's name is Bell.
Mm-hmm.
So River Bell Philp, and mom and baby and dad are doing great. And as we're taping here on Monday, they're planning to come home if everything goes well and the good Lord willing, coming back to Emporia tonight. So we're excited. Angie's excited. Naomi's been at the hospital in Richmond with them basically the entire time, even since Angie and I came back home yesterday. But on the racetrack and then certainly in my personal life, a very blessed weekend in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So what are they going to call you? Pawpaw? Grampy?
Gimme. Yeah. Gimme this. Gimme that.
I thought they already called you that.
Yeah.
Gimme. That's funny.
Cora asked, I really am hopeful. Of course, at the end of the day, I understand that what I will be called will ultimately be whatever River decides to call me. Because, for instance, my mom, Belle, when Cora was born, she wanted to be called Granny because that's what we called her mom as our grandmother. We called her Granny. So my mom tried endlessly to get Cora to call her Granny, and Cora started calling her Nanny. So obviously 25, 26 years later, she's Nanny to all of the grandkids.
Yeah.
So if I had a choice, which I probably don't, we all called my grandfather, my dad's dad, we always called him Grand. So if I had to pick one, I would like to be called Grand, but I know just like Cora gave Nanny her name, that River will, at the right time, at the right place, whenever she's ready, will be telling me what I'm to respond to.
Well, and I saw baby pictures. You held one up to the screen as we're taping right before we went on, and she is absolutely gorgeous.
You know, and the biggest thing is it has done, Bill. It has, you know, in some ways inspired me to maybe ask Angie if she'd like to try one more time for one more kid of our own.
All right. So
why are you laughing?
No, I guess that just brings up so many thoughts at once. So let's talk about your approach as your attorney. You know, you always got to have a strategy going in. If your goal orientation is to maybe try again.
Let's get one thing straight first.
Mm-hmm.
You've already told me on all matters related to me and my wife related to the law and or finances, you dumped me and began representing my wife.
Yeah, I saw your savings account and I saw hers.
Lack of.
All right. So I'll back out, not as your attorney, but as your bud. You always got to have a strategy. I'm your wingman here. We're in the bar. We're figuring out how you're going to approach Angie, this beautiful woman over here, and convince her maybe to go one more time for a fourth child. What's your approach?
Yep.
You got an approach?
Well, you got to find the sweet spot with Angie, and with her, I think it's 1.75 Bloody Marys. So that's more than one, less than two. And, you know, for me, I need to lose a little weight. I'm going to try to do that.
You think that's what it's going to take?
I'm going to go to the store and get some just for men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get rid of some of this gray.
Okay.
And I went on Amazon a little while ago and ordered me some tube socks that I can roll up appropriately and show off a little bit. And so, and that add to that my natural charm and beauty, and good looks and personality, then I would say I've got about a 10% shot.
I think we need to think about this a little bit more, but I think you're on the right track, especially the tube socks. I think that may, you send her back into another age, back when maybe, you know, when you were in your 20s and tube socks were in. That's not a bad idea. I kind of like how you're thinking there. Do you have any lines? Do you have any like, you know, baby, did it hurt when you fell out of heaven? You know, that kind of, do you have any kind of line that will actually get to the go spot?
Well, my line would probably be kind of what it's always been, and that is, if you just come in here and give me 3 minutes, it'll be over with. We don't have to worry about, you know, whether or not the front door is locked, or, you know, Naomi's at college.
Right. No kids coming in.
No kids coming in. Dogs bark at everything anyway. So, you know, there's
be quiet.
There's a number of boxes we have to check. But I think at this point in time, selling her on the fact that it won't take that long is probably the biggest concern she would have.
Would you go with it?
She'd probably rather be at the UPS store mailing a package rather than messing with mine. Sorry.
You're in a great mood today, bud.
I am in a great
mood. Would you put on, like, you know, if you're going to go way back with the tube socks, are you going to put on some Ocean Pacific, some OP corduroy shorts, maybe, and a tank top?
Yeah, the short. Yeah.
Yeah, the shorty shorts.
Bringing it back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. A little Adidas shoes.
Try to maybe regrow a little bit of a mullet.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
I kind of like this plan. I'm
going to like a tank top.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm going to up your percentages. You say 10% chance of victory. I'm going to say 17%.
ODW.
Look at that. Yeah. Almost double. So,
I'm going to tell you on a serious note, what a blessing it is. Cora and Cameron, they're going to be great parents, and we're thrilled that River is happy and healthy. And we do look forward to spoiling the grandchild, for sure.
Now, when you and I were talking over the weekend, you know, I was working all weekend on my Florida criminal federal case, and we were texting and talking back and forth. You actually drove the family RV to the hospital, did you not?
I did. We got home Friday afternoon, and Cora had a regularly scheduled appointment with her baby doctor in Richmond, and Cora had a few little small issues on the side related to the pregnancy and a few little concerns that the doctors were monitoring. And basically, when Cora and Cameron got to the doctor, Friday afternoon, they kept her. They sent her directly to the hospital and said, don't know exactly when, but you're not going home until we have this baby. So then Friday afternoon, I got home, and Haley, we have to plan for and around Haley.
Sure.
And so I wanted it to be where Haley could be there to be a part of the exciting family time, but we also didn't want to be, ways away in a hotel, things of that nature. So we cleaned up and loaded up the motorhome. I did that while Angie was finishing at work, and then we drove the motorhome to the hospital. Got there at 9:30, Friday night, and that's where we stayed the entire weekend. Angie and Naomi stayed inside with Cora the entire time, which, I guess hospital rules, they would allow 3. And so Cora and Cameron wanted Angie and Naomi to be there, during the whole process, which was wonderful. But me and Haley hung out in the motorhome, and I contributed. I made a couple Chick-fil-A runs for the team over the weekend. Went to Firebirds one time and got some food, and went to McDonald's for Haley and kept her happy. And then, that way when it got close to time to have the baby, we were all right there on site. Worked out great. And we came home yesterday afternoon. So a wonderful couple days. And I got to sit there Saturday night on the motorhome while we were kind of waiting. And I watched my go-kart boys and girls were racing in Halloween Havoc down in Elizabeth City. And so got to watch some of that. And then, of course, the season finale for the Smart Modified Tour from Orange County. Got to watch that on Flow as well. So a good night, fun night, and one that I'll never forget. And like I said, the Cora and Cameron and baby coming home tonight, and we'll start the spoiling process immediately.
Oh, it's already started, man. But so where do you park the RV in a hospital? I mean, pull it right up there to the emergency room. What do you do?
We parked around, like at this particular hospital, which was St. Mary's, which they did a great job, great hospital. They have a parking deck out front, but around the back, they have a big size parking lot, actually outside of the emergency room entrance. But so we got a nice spot away from the hospital where it wasn't crowded and it was well lit. And we parked and set up, and we set up camp there and stayed from Friday night until afternoon Sunday. Wow.
And they let you do that? I mean, they don't come out and say,
well, full disclosure, I didn't ask anybody. But nobody bothered us. So.
I mean, are you taking up more than one spot, or is this kind of like a little fire lane? I mean, what do you do? How do you just go to a hospital and park an RV?
I parked on the row furthest away from the hospital. There were few, if any, cars over there, and I pulled in and bagged in up to the curbing underneath one of the lights. So it'd be well lit. Then I put Cora's SUV in front of the motorhome, just in case nobody could block us in case we need to get out for emergency or something. And we sat right there, and nobody bothered us a bit. It was great.
That's great that you can kind of, and especially that's got to be great for Haley because you're kind of bringing home there, right? It's not a strange and weird place.
She's got all of her special, the things she needs, her videos and her movies that she likes. She likes to be contained and confined and in her comfortable element. So it worked out good for Haley. She can make herself just as happy on the motorhome as she can being at Faux Show or at the house or anywhere else. So it would not have been as good an experience had we not taken Haley with us, or had she been unhappy, in whatever situation she was in at home if we didn't take her with us. So we took her. She enjoyed it. She kept herself busy, and I got to tell you though, she's not a fan of babies. She doesn't.
Yeah, you told me that before.
She doesn't like babies, and she definitely does not like crying. So we went up yesterday because Cora and Cameron wanted to tell all the grandparents the name of the baby at the same time. So Angie and I and Cameron's parents and Naomi and Haley were all there when they told us the name of the baby, and then we all got to hold the baby, and we asked Haley if she wanted to hold the baby, and she said, not today, maybe tomorrow.
Well, so, I mean, she was happy for, of course, her sister, I'm sure. And, yeah, she doesn't like crying in places, right? She does not. Kind of bothers her.
It really bothers her and gets her triggered in a big time way if there's noise or a lot of commotion, and especially crying. She wants to be able to fix it, and she can't. So she has not held the baby. And the funny thing is, I've told you many times about my little family has a family group chat called Put It in Reverse Terry. And so, through the entire process, I'm going to say maybe 4 months ago, Cora was asking all of us in the family about, even though she probably already made her mind up, what are some baby name ideas? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And Haley was and continues to be a fan of the Teletubbies. So when they came around to Cora asking about ideas for names, she said, Haley, what do you think we ought to name the baby? And Haley, without hesitation, said, Tinky Winky. So for the last 4.5 months on our group chat, whenever Cora was going to the doctor or whatever, Cora would say, we're going to get Tinky Winky a checkup. So the baby was called Tinky Winky for the last 5 months until we knew the real name. So even yesterday when we were going around the room, and after Cora even told us the name, we said, Cora, what's the baby's name? And she said, Tinky Winky. So in Haley's mind, she'll probably always be Tinky Winky.
Yeah, and I'm sure she'll call it Tinky Winky, but that's great. River Bell Phelps, welcome to the world.
River Bell Phelps, yep.
You picked a good family to be there, and thank God she's following along in your wife's traits and your daughter's traits, and so all the beauty comes from that side of the family. It's a beautiful daughter, man, and congratulations, and a great granddaughter for you. So
we're excited.
So we're not going to find out what they're going to call you, Grampy, Grumpy,
or Gimme.
That's a gimme.
Well, I won't.
Mm-hmm. And Angie's got to be thrilled, right? She's just got to be tickle pink.
Yeah.
And maybe that 17% chance of getting lucky goes up a little higher because women tend to get baby fever. I know my wife does. I mean, we both do. We see babies and we're like, gosh, if we could just have another one. Because
I'll send you this picture of River to put on your phone tonight, and when you get home and walk in the door, and just flash it in Laura's face and the picture, and just see what happens.
Say, how do you think? What do you think? Yeah. It's like an attractant.
You want to do anything?
You want to see how this happens?
Yeah.
But that's awesome, man. So, in those kind of instances now, I mean, I guess both Cora and her husband are going to take some time, of course, bond with the baby, take some time off. You've got to pick up the slack there at Sadler Brother Wool because she's instrumental, I know, in your company.
I am worried about how my people are going to get paid because she handles the payroll.
That's what I was about to say. What's going to happen with the checkbook?
I have a bunch of people calling me, where's my paycheck?
So how are you going to work that out? I mean, I guess she's going to work from home a little bit, or?
Yeah, she's been willing or will be willing to help out from home when needed, but she trained another couple girls in the office on how to get it done, but she'll be around to step in and help if needed. That's the most important part about having a business, as you know, is making sure your people get paid on time.
Yeah, my wife's in here right now at the Stanley Law Group. We're not together. You're an employer at the Sadler Brothers Wool Company at your office. I'm at my office here at the mothership, the Stanley Law Group here in Moneta, Virginia at Smith Mountain Lake. And I had my wife in here trying to make sure my trust accounts and all my accounts are straight because she knows how to do it and knows their own math.
Show her that. If you need to take a break, let me know.
Let me see if I can get her in here. Hey, I'll even record the conversation. Maybe it'll give you some tips. But so that was a great part of the weekend. This week we saw each other on Thursday night. And then we didn't see each other on Saturday night, but we did talk to each other on the phone. Let's talk about that a little bit. But before we do, we're missing our fanny pack. He's not here today, but it's not his fault. It's actually our fault because of timing and everything else. Shep Mouse is not here. All you Shep lovers, you're going to have to do 1 week without Shep Moss. But during the week, this was Martinsville Race Weeks. Martinsville Speedway, if you haven't been there before, it's a cathedral of racing. It's one of the best short tracks ever. And during that time, we had festivities at New College Institute on the Wednesday before. Hauled one of our cars out there, put it out there with some NASCARs and Rajat Caruth's truck with the Wendell Scott Foundation. Wendell Scott Foundation, great guy. Warrick Scott, grandson of Wendell Scott, the Jackie Robinson of NASCAR, runs this foundation that helps children that are at or below the poverty level achieve in STEM and think about careers in STEM. I mean, it's one of the most wonderful foundations. We're going to bring them on here in the next couple of weeks, but New College Institute, where I'm the chairman of the board of directors, and the Wendell Scott Institute have formed a partnership. The Wendell Scott Institute, the Wendell Scott Foundation is now in the New College Institute right there. He's brought in the Jacksonville Trophy, which was denied Wendell Scott for so many years after he won that NASCAR Grand National race. Fire suits, all sorts of things. We got like a museum there, but we brought in legendary conversations, Frank Scott, which we call Big Frank, or I call Uncle Frank. That's Wendell Scott's son, Warrick's father, who was also the crew chief for Wendell Scott. And so they had a real great love and partnership and friendship with none other than the king, Richard Petty. And so we had Wendell Scott Foundation hosting legendary conversations at New College Institute with none other than Richard the King Petty and Frank Scott talking about their times in NASCAR. So in the second segment today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring you the audio of that great conversation. We packed the hall, the Lacey Lecture Hall there at New College Institute, had over 350 people there. They had a huge reception beforehand. People were taking pictures with the cars. It was a great way to go back in time for the history of NASCAR and the history of Martinsville. And I think it was really good for New College Institute and the city of Martinsville. But we were there Wednesday for that. You'll hear that in segment 2. But Thursday, Hermie, tell everybody what went on Thursday, how we did, and where we went from there.
Well, we returned back to Martinsville for the final race of the year for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We had 2 cars in the show, Bobby Labonte and Ryan Newman. And, I would call our performances, grade them. I'd give them a B. Ryan qualified better than Bobby. Bobby ended up, finishing 10th. I think Ryan was 11th. So right on the fringe of top 10s. That was a strong field of modifieds as well. But a 10th and 11th out of, 36, 37 cars. Not a bad night. We struggled a little bit as a team at Martinsville last year.
We did.
And didn't quite have the speed we wanted. And the good news is, I think we made some changes, and I think we were better, more competitive. I think back to last year, Bobby, that was his first race. That was a 1-year anniversary, really, of Bobby coming to work, for us. And not only did he crash out really early in the race, he really struggled with speed to keep up. And, for him to be able to, he spent some time up in the top 2 or 3 and, had a better car speed wise than we had last year. And so, overall, we didn't have a winning car, but we had top 10 cars, and that's about where we finished. And so, really appreciate what the guys did to try to improve our cars, drivability, speed, and those kind of things. And the better news is we got out of there, because, Bobby had a mishap back at Motor Mile about a month ago, and we've got one car that was completely destroyed.
Right.
That we're currently building a new chassis for to replace that car. So if, then we had, Martinsville was Thursday night. We had the season finale for the Smart Modified Tour on Saturday.
Yeah.
And we really needed to get out of Martinsville, in pretty good shape equipment wise to be able to pull off that on Saturday, get into the Smart Modified Tour finale. So that was good. And then,
and you were down in the pits the whole time. We saw each other during the kind of fan appreciation.
Which I don't understand, because you always get mad when people ask me for pictures and autographs on the racetrack and not you.
I tease you about it.
If I was in a courtroom somewhere, well, no, they like me in a courtroom too.
Yeah, that doesn't work there either.
Try to find a way.
No. Anytime I'm with you, it's about you. It's all about you. Always all about you. And
a lot of Sadler fans in and around Martinsville. So I walk out on the track, not for that, but to go see our drivers. And, they had a good crowd of fans out on the racetrack for their version of the quote unquote pit party on the track prior to the race starting. So, like I said, 10th and 11th place finish, and people
came up, and the story there is people came up and they said, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And I thought they were talking to me, and they were talking to you.
Yeah,
I was looking like, why would you want my picture? And of course, it was you. And then it happened over and over and over again. I don't know if you pay those people to come up and do that when I'm sitting next to you, but always happens that way, doesn't it?
A small fee, as the Big Swede says. When you call the Big Swede.
Mm-hmm.
And say, "Can you come tow me?" He'll say, "For a small fee."
The Big Swede. So we had a suite upstairs. Actually, we brought a lot of the SMART officials, people from New College that participated in the legendary conversations that you're going to hear here in a little bit. I had them up there in the suite, and I had my wife and my son Chandler, who are big race fans, as you know. And what I really, really loved, and somebody noticed it, is that Chandler and my wife looked at me and said, "We don't want to be in the suite. We're going to go down and listen to it." And they were just about 5 rows up from the front, and they loved it. They had a great time. I brought a Florida trial attorney up, Hector Flores, who is working with me on this federal case, and he loved it too. And I gave him some merch, and he had never been to a NASCAR race before, and he loved it. So it was a great night. That is some good racing. I mean, I wish SMART would race on Martinsville, but I guess they never will because it's NASCAR owned, right?
Yeah, they own the track, but it was a good mix of some of the drivers and teams that compete in the SMART series also competed in that race, and vice versa. And we got really lucky on the weather at Martinsville this time of year. I mean, you live in that part of the state.
Yep.
I mean, you can get most anything. It can be 75 like it was Thursday, or it could be snowing this time of year. You never know.
Yeah, and what we had actually was all 4 seasons in one day. So you woke up, it was like 40 degrees in the morning. Then you had spring at about 10 or 11 o'clock at about 60, and then we had almost 80-degree weather in the afternoon, and then it crested back towards fall. So it was a great race, great weather, great timing. And Ron Silk is now the Whelen modified champion for this year. I thought he ran really well all year and should be committed. So we send out our congratulations to him. That was a good big deal. Ryan Preece actually won the race in Martinsville, did he not?
He did. He was dominant too. Don't look like anybody had anything for him. So congratulations to him and his team, and they got the job done on a big stage. Congratulations.
I've seen where some people are complaining that they call off NASCAR teams like ours, because we have NASCAR drivers. You're a former NASCAR driver, and then Ryan Preece bringing in, I guess, his crew and pit crew. That they say somehow then you're polluting the open wheel modified series with NASCAR. I don't see it that way, but I was seeing it on social media where people were like, that's not fair. It shouldn't happen because, of course, those are all professionals, and these guys do it in the garage of their home. I mean, what are your feelings on that?
My feelings on that is I view racing just like I view life and business, the free market system.
There you go.
You got a team and a sponsor and a driver, and you go by all the rules and pass tech and want to go race, everybody go race. So, the flip side of it is, and I heard all this when I was racing, back in the day. I was racing in the Busch Grand National Series for a long time. And Mark Martin, Rick Mast, Michael Waltrip, Harry Gant, these drivers like this would come down on Saturday and race against us. And some people would just get all bent out of shape about Mark Martin coming down, or Harry Gant, or Michael Waltrip, or Dale Earnhardt, or whoever it was. And I never complained about it. I just thought it was a wonderful chance to get to race with people like that. And so, there were 9 people Thursday night in Martinsville that outran Bobby Labonte. So for them, that is something they can go talk to about their friends, kids, grandkids, sponsors, other people like that. So having a guy like Bobby Labonte in the show, having a guy like Ryan Preece in the show, it enables some of these modified drivers to stack up. Where do you actually stack up? And so I understand both sides of the argument, but as we've talked about now, going on 3 years with our lawsuit, I'm all about the free market.
Yeah. And Ryan Preece ran modifieds for a long time before he ever got the Cup. Yeah. So he came through the modified circuit. And my opinion, and especially when we formed this team and when we got connected to the Smart Series, was making sure that and we've said it 100 times, protecting short tracks, preserving them, and the grassroots racing that's out there. And so I think when you bring guys like, if Dale Jr. wants to come down and run a modified, you'd let him run one, right? One of ours, right?
No.
But if Dale Jr. or, if you bring a Kevin Harvick in and stuff, that's going to put people into the stands, butts in the seats, and also it brings attention to this series or open wheel modified racing, where most people, if they're into racing, sometimes all they're doing is NASCAR racing, nothing else. They don't see the short track, the rural area, short track modifieds, and it allows them to kind of maybe pay attention to another series. And I think it helps those drivers that are in there, and God bless them, that are in their garages every week, turning the wrenches themselves, buying the parts, saving up, trying to get money in sponsorship money for tires so they can race that weekend. The purses aren't that big, not compared to like the big series. But, I think it helps them because it keeps the series, it keeps open wheel modified alive, and it helps it to grow, and it brings in new fans. And so I kind of like it, but I was seeing where social media was saying Ryan Preece should not have been running in the Whelen race. But, he had been an open wheel modified driver before. Just because he's now a Cup car driver doesn't make it that he shouldn't be able to run in that thing. And the same for Ryan Newman and Bobby Labonte.
Those same people, if their driver had won, they would have been telling the whole world, my driver beat Ryan Preece in Martinsville in a modified.
Right.
So, there you have it.
Well, it was a great race, as we said, great night for racing. And a 10 and 11 for us is pretty dang good, especially when we only were on 3 or 4 of those Whelen races a year. Now, would you think as SSR, Sadler Stanley Racing, would we continue along? And we're going to talk about what we're going to do next year here in a little bit. But I mean, do you find the Whelen Modified Tour something that we want to look at for next year to keep going, expand going, put another car in? What do you think of that tour?
Well, I didn't know we were going to air our dirty laundry here on the podcast.
That's all we've done for a year and a half.
Personally, I would prefer that we put all of our resources and time and effort into the Smart Series, and spend more resources and time with that. But at the same time, we're also, trying to create brand awareness for Pace-O-Matic, and, get more notoriety for our team and our cars. And so, and plus, you and I are both Virginia residents, and we want to support the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Right.
So, getting to go to Richmond and Martinsville and race those races in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I look at it as still, even though I'm not driving the car myself, it's an honor to be fielding cars to race, on these Virginia-based tracks. And we also need to create more awareness for the short tracks in Virginia that are struggling, that need notoriety, that need help. They need, people talking about them. So, but if you're flat up asking me, is it worth the money for us to race in the Whelen Modified Tour? Probably not.
Yeah.
But we try to put our money where our mouth is and try to support Virginia-based tracks. I mean, that means the big ones like Martinsville and Richmond, all the way down to the South Bostons and the Motor Miles, who need somebody to to come in and keep those tracks going. Southside Speedway that needs to be saved, and all these other kind of things. So if your mission is to try to bring attention to those tracks and the short track racing, it's kind of hard to pick and choose when and how you do it. You can't do it sometimes. You got to do it all the time. So
right.
As far as next year, me and you will talk about it, and I'll pretend like it's mine and your decision, and then I'll let you decide, like I always do.
That is such BS. I was getting ready for the truth to come out. We go, I'll listen to you, and then I'll decide what I want to do. So you would think maybe next year, Sadler Stanley Racing because, you know, a lot of what the Whelen tour is almost up north, really on the northeast side. A lot of northeast drivers driving that full time. But that's a long haul to take your equipment up there and run and race and every single race. But so I think what we have is in Whelen schedule next year is Langley, Martinsville, and Richmond, which are 3 great racetracks here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think they're running Wilkesboro too. Would you run the same 3 tracks next year with a car or cars and maybe add a Wilkesboro, or would you maybe just focus on SMART and not run any Whelen?
You just asked me that question. So you mean answer it again?
No. The first question was, were we going to maybe expand into a full-time Whelen ride? Maybe I didn't ask or articulate that in the way I should.
Okay, so I can answer that. Do you have sponsorship money from Pace-O-Matic to do that?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
But I'm just, I'm wondering.
That answer's easy.
Okay. So
if that's something that the sponsor wanted us to do and wanted to, and by the way, I don't see you on the screen anymore. I think we're breaking up a little bit. But if that's something that Pace-O-Matic viewed as an important strategy for us, based on if they need to create more brand awareness and kind of rev up the small businesses in another part of the United States, maybe that the Whelen Modified Tour raced on more often, and certainly we could expand and do that. But as it stands right now, I don't see us doing any more Whelen races, but I would think about what we did this year, would be what I would anticipate, unless the strategy on behalf of, if Pace-O-Matic comes in and says, we want you to run all the SMART Modified Tour races and all the Whelen Modified Tour races, certainly that's a conversation we could have depending on what the wants and needs are of the sponsor.
Okay. That's what I was asking. So, for at minimum, though, we anticipate running Richmond and Martinsville again.
And by the way, that goes back to everybody this year that you've offered a ride to,
right?
In Sadler Stanley Racing, it boils down to sponsorship. Somebody's got to write a check for somebody to ride.
Well,
that's the way it works.
Speaking of finally listening to me in the world of our auto racing team, we ran my dream 3 cars on that next couple days later on Saturday night at the Smart Series Championship race at Orange County, the Rumble at Rougemont, our final series race right there. And you finally listened to me and you ran 3 cars. And aren't you glad for it?
Oh yeah, tickled to death.
And you got sponsors.
Never say that we had never done that, so we did it.
Oh, is that what that was for? That was just to get it out of the way.
Last.
Okay, really, first and last. Well, you got a sponsor for the 3rd car too, and we were able to close out the year with Bobby Labonte, Ryan Newman, and Jonathan Cash, all 3 drivers we've had all through the years running a car. And you know what I really liked about that, and I want you to talk about this too with our audience. For the first time, I think that's the first time we saw the 16 out there, which was your old number and your old font and color. And I thought that was really a good looking number on the side of that car.
Yeah, we ended up putting Jonathan Cash in the 16 in the 3rd car. He got a sponsor that came in and helped us make that happen. And of course, Bobby was 18 and Ryan 39. And I was really proud of the effort of the guys, and a lot of people will never really truly understand how difficult this is. But for our guys, in some cases on really short notice, to prepare 3 completely different cars with 3 different drivers and go to the racetrack, and they all ran within a 0.5 of a second of each other in qualifying. One was like a 51, a 54, and a 57.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Just an unbelievable job when you set up 3 cars and have 3 different drivers, and for all 3 of those cars to run that close together. I give Phil Stefanelli and everybody at PSR a shout out for the preparation at the shop and the pit stop. By the way, let's be honest, and I think Bobby mentioned this the other night in his Victory Lane interview at Orange County. He said, hey, there's been times this year when we had bad pit stops and it probably cost us races. Well, Saturday night, we had great pit stop and it got us out front and helped us to win a race. So, when you diagnose a problem and your team goes to work and fixes the problem and executes the way they did down the stretch for Bobby to win 2 out of 3 races in the Smart Modified Tour coming down the stretch, says a lot about the progress that has been made. It took us a while, and some sidebar conversations between you and I where, we made some changes to the cars for Bobby to more closely match his driving style. Because let's be honest, not calling any names, but there were people when we hired Bobby last year said he'll never win another race.
Correct.
And guess what? He won last 2 out of 3 races in dominating fashion.
Yeah.
So that still goes to show if you give a driver like Bobby Labonte the feel that he wants and needs in a race car, he can get the job done. And he did. And for Ryan Newman to come in, you and I didn't know it until a couple of days before the race at Orange County that Ryan was going to be in Martinsville running a cup car. So basically, Bobby Labonte hopped in the 39 car and ran it a couple laps of practice. But Ryan basically showed up with only about 5 laps of practice at the racetrack. He also qualified top 5, had to start in the rear because they had punctured a tire with some on-track debris. So he qualified up front, had to go all the way to the back, and drove his way back up and ended up getting a second place finish. And Cash, until he had a mechanical issue with the car, he qualified top 5 and was running top 4 or 5 until that happened. So really proud of the guys. Our teams executed. Our drivers did a good job. And, the last 3 races, how we performed, not only on the racetrack, but in the pits, it really did make a big difference, and also made a big difference in the, attitude of the team. And it, we asked them to step up and to make some changes, and our guys stepped up, made some changes, and it really showed up on the racetrack. And so I'm happy for everybody involved, especially Pace-O-Matic, because they put a lot of money not only into the series but into us and our race team to give all these opportunities. And I'm not just talking about just for the drivers, but I'm talking about all the crewmen. When you show up to the racetrack, there's nobody at the racetrack that has more people working on race cars than we do. And, a lot of people are, getting paid to work on modified race cars and get to do what they love to do on the weekend because of Sadler Stanley Racing, and that's because of Pace-O-Matic. So I appreciate what they're doing, but I'm also extremely happy for Bobby Labonte for him to finish the year like that, because a month ago he was really beating himself up, and his credentials speak for themselves. And so once he kind of got over all that and just got back to doing what he knows, what he knows how to do, he looked like a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
In those last couple races. So congratulations to him.
And not only that, when he was getting out of the car, man, he was smiling so big. That's the biggest I've ever seen him smile, and as happy as I've seen him, and that we were able to be a part of that. Now, the one thing we weren't there at the races. I'm superstitious. I'm wondering if now the 2 races this year that we did not attend and we watched on TV, we had actually the same kids coming over to watch the race at our house. And so I guess I got to sell the RV now and just watch this from home every week so that we win every week. But first for Bobby Labonte, second place Ryan Newman, who's blocking out there, 12th for Jonathan Cash. That was for you, baby. And you got to be happy with how the season ended. And just as you said, where do we go from here, man? I mean, what's the next thing? We didn't win a championship this year. I think we didn't win an owners championship. Burt Myers is your champion. What are we doing next year? I mean, we've got the sponsor in place. Where we go from here, man?
The biggest thing is to continue down the path we've been on the last 3 races of this year. Because even though, Bobby Labonte did not win South Boston, he had a car capable of winning.
Right.
He spun out one time. He got what I would view as he should not have been penalized for pitting too early. I thought that was a series matter. So he had to go to the back twice that race and still drove up to 6th. So, Bobby, to win 2 out of the last 3 and have a competitive car like he had, we, as far as it relates to Bobby Labonte, we just want to continue down the path of building on the way we finished the season. I've already talked to Bobby about trying to get some testing dates worked out so we can get back to the track before all the cold weather gets here this fall and try a few more things. We really made a lot of progress the last 4 to 6 weeks, giving Bobby more drivability in his car. And we think there may be even more opportunity to do some more of that later on. And then outside of that, we're going to continue to build the team, build more depth on the crew, build more depth on our, pit crew, and keep practicing on those kind of things. And I'm going to do my part to try to build more team unity. I think we're better when we work together. It does not benefit us to run 2 cars and occasionally run 3 cars if we don't act like a team, if we don't share information, and that's what that's about. You would think, especially if we get in a situation where we're fighting for a championship, the drivers have to work together. Could you just to give you an example, this past Saturday at Orange County, they had an open practice early in the morning. Okay, but once the racing of the day started, the Smart Modified guys and girls had 2 10-minute practices. That's all you had in the afternoon.
Why is that?
To get ready to qualify. So it could and should be a tremendous advantage to us to have 2 cars on the track. But that's only if our 2 cars, teams, drivers, car chiefs, crew chiefs, excuse me, if they all work together and we take that 10-minute practice and turn it into 20 minutes worth of information.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody else at the track has that. And so we didn't always do a good job of our team and our drivers working together. So that'll be one of the topics that I'll try to work hard on this winter, is continuing down the path of building faster, more drivable race cars, continue to have our guys work on our pit crews, and we become even more consistent with that, but then working on having our teams really and truly work together and one team being happy for the other when the other one wins. And that helps build that unity, that camaraderie, and those kind of things. And so that's what we got to do.
One of the things I was concerned about was, did you see the crowd at Orange County? I mean, it was not very populated. It was a hot night. It was warm, and a championship night. And I think part of it was because the championship was pretty much determined. I mean, Burt Myers is going to, as long as he started his car, got a couple laps in, that championship was determined. What do you do? I mean, are you concerned at all? Because we care about these short tracks so much. It's a great racetrack, but I mean, there looked like there was less than 500 people out there that night. And 2, in terms of how we determine and pick a champion in the Smart Modified Tour, do you think that we need to make some changes so that next race, something's on the line and everybody, maybe more than one person, has a chance to win the championship for the year?
I'm not even going to attempt to try to tell Chris Williams how to run his business.
This is your opportunity to back me up on this.
Not. But as far as the crowd, I mean, just really 2 things. One, marketing. We got to do a better job of marketing and getting the word out about this series and the races, but also the scheduling. I mean, there was a big late model race at Tri-County. There was something, there was
Martinsville races.
Martinsville, the Xfinity race at Martinsville didn't end until 6, 7 o'clock. I mean, It's just so many things. You take the race fan and you split them up to 3 or 4 different short tracks, the Caraway. I mean, all the promoters have to do a better job of not scheduling on top of each other, to not force race fans to pick and choose between, do I go 45 minutes this way or do I go 45 minutes this way? They've got to do a better job with that.
And so you don't have any opinion, or let me give you my opinion on at least making the championship better. I mean, why wouldn't we have something that's more like, if you win, you get in, and then you might have 6 or 7 race car drivers that are racing for a championship, and maybe just, a Matt Hirschman comes down, runs half the season, wins, but he's in the finals. Well, he's a winner. I mean, if we just do points, it seems to me that, like we had this year, it's predetermined, and maybe that excitement level is not there, because if you're a Burt Myers fan, like I know you are, there's no reason to go there. And maybe I'm going to the Martinsville race because Burt's already won the championship. It's already wrapped up. There's nothing really to race for, except it just becomes a normal race. I want that championship race to be something that's, spectacular, and maybe 6 or 7 teams have a shot, winner take all kind of deal. I think that would make it more exciting and maybe put more people in the stands, even if it's running over top of some other races during the same weekend.
I don't disagree with that. The only thing I would say, I do not think it'd be a good idea to let a part-time competitor race for the championship. I think somebody would need to commit to the entire series, and the only way they get to miss a race, unless it's a medical waiver that has to be approved by the SMART series, similar to NASCAR. You can't let somebody come down and run 1, 2, 3 races, win a race, and show up at the championship race and race for a championship. I think, you can say if you win and you're in, no problem with that. If it's 5, 6, 7, it can be the top 3 in points. And if you win a race, you get in. But I think you have to be committed, at least attempt to run every race on the schedule to qualify to race for a championship, unless there's a 1 or 2 race situation where there's a medical situation that you need a waiver for. That'd be my opinion.
Well, I've seen next year's calendar and schedule for SMART. It looks really good. I think you're going to like it, but we got to figure out this championship round, how we make it more exciting for the fans and for the drivers, and for the teams. I think what we're also trying to do right now.
He could even, I'm not privy to the schedule like you are.
I'm the series lawyer. I'm the attorney.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a big gig.
he could even turn it into the last 2 races.
Mm-hmm.
It could be 8 in the next to last race, and then the top 3 out of that, the top 3 finishes out of those 8 in the next to last race, or 4. You could go next to the last race of the year. You got 8 drivers competing. The top 4 finishes of those 8 go to the season finale for 4th, turn into a 2-race championship thing. NASCAR does, 16, 12, 8, 4. They drag it out 4 or 5 races.
Right.
No need for that in the SMART tool, but they could definitely do it in 2. That way it puts some excitement. You got 8 drivers in the next to the last race of the year, and let those 4 earn it for the championship. That's another idea.
All right. Well, the season comes to an end. We ended it on a high note. It was a lot of fun. At least it became a lot of fun at the end. I won't air any more dirty laundry, because we go into the winter meetings kind of deciding, as you have now heard, listener, that we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to think about, but feeling pretty good at the end of the 2023 season, going into 2024. And the race on Sunday was pretty amazing too for NASCAR. The final 4 drivers into the championship round are determined, and they're going to race next week in Phoenix. You got any thoughts on that there, Herm?
I watched some of the race at Martinsville yesterday, not a lot. Ryan Blaney was dominant. The racing at Martinsville in the Cup cars is just, I know they've done some testing and tried to get it better, but I just think they've got to continue to work to try to make the racing more competitive. Passing is very, very difficult. And I just don't think, when you see drivers having to shift every lap at a place like Martinsville, I'm just not sure why we can't figure that out. But, I enjoyed the race, happy for Blaney. And, the more exciting race was probably the Xfinity race on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was a demolition derby, whack them up, tear them up.
That was great.
Kind of
full moon racing.
Yeah. So I'll try to watch the race at Phoenix. Don't have any real favorite, not pulling for somebody over somebody else. But, in Blaney's case, he was able to win, get the job done, and he'll have a chance to race for a championship. And on the other side of it, Denny Hamlin came up short again. So one more year that he'll have a pretty good year, wins lots of races, and not able to get to the championship will certainly, seal the deal. So we'll see what the future holds for him starting next year.
Yeah. So I thought it was for, as you know, Martinsville can always make a great race out of a bad package that they have for the cars, and that's what it seems like here. It's such a great track; it never disappoints. But you're right that I watched the Xfinity races all year, and I'm gonna tell you, they were more fun most of the time than a lot of the Cup races. And it was kind of interesting too. I mean, you saw that Sheldon Creed thing with RCR. I mean, they seem to have a dust up there for no reason, but I heard he's leaving there and going to Joe Gibbs Racing. So, boy, if you leave RCR, man, they kick your butt on the way out, don't they?
Yeah, I didn't really understand all that. I don't agree so much with team orders, but if you're going to have team orders, they had a 30-minute red flag. If Richard Childress or Andy Petrie didn't want the two RCR cars to race hard, they could have went and told them. They wait till after the race is over when both of them wrecked. But I don't have any problem with Sheldon Creed trying to win and get himself in the championship spelling. I don't have any problem with Austin Hill being pissed. If you don't want your guys to race, you need to go tell them during a 30-minute red flag, hey, stay away from each other. Don't wreck. I'd rather have one car than none. And I don't think anybody did that. So you can't come after the fact and be pissed, in my view.
Yeah. And
I got nothing to do with that. That's my opinion.
And it's ironic, I think, to me, because, if Creed looked like he had a faster car, Austin kind of just tucked in behind him. If they finished 1-2, they're both into the finals in Xfinity. Instead, neither one of them are. So there you go. So let's close out this segment here in a minute. But
that's what happens sometimes when you have more than one car on the track out of the same team. Only one good thing can happen, and multiple bad things can happen.
God, man, you turned it right back on teaching me a lesson about race teams and why we shouldn't have two. That's why we need three. Anyway, just want to kind of reach out. We've got a lot of fans, a lot of listeners who own convenience stores.
You're the series attorney. You're also the attorney that represents our sponsor.
That's correct.
You have that conversation with. We'll run 5 cars.
And I'm also your attorney. As long as there's money
to do so.
I'm also your attorney. And so we just want to give you an update on the skills game lawsuit. There's a lot, and it really may affect the vacating of this injunction may have an adverse effect on Republican seats in certain areas. A lot of the convenience store owners, Hermie, are rising up. They're mad. They're angry. If they've got somebody to blame, they're blaming the attorney general's office or the governor, which, we don't want them to do that. But they're mad because they figured this can be resolved, and it's not been resolved yet. We've got motions hearings coming up in the next couple weeks. We've got motions for summary judgment. We've put in some real good briefs. We're hurtling towards trial, but right now, as it stands, most areas have given the Attorney General the grace period of November 15th to get the games turned off for now. But we feel really confident about our case, Herm. I mean, we still have, if you look at our briefs, we still have great arguments, not only for the free speech, but also due process and overbreadth and vagueness and unconstitutionality of the law. It seems like the actual Supreme Court decision has created quite a backlash, not just in politics, but in the communities that have these convenience stores, truck stops, bars, and restaurants that are watching their skill games being shut down over time. And I was on a conference call with some convenience store owners, and they're saying that 800 to 900 convenience stores of the thousands that are here may have to close down just because these skill games are turned off because of their margins due to the high price of gas, high cost of inflation as it affects their convenience store provisions that they sell, and the fact that they've got to pay $15, $16, $17 an hour to their employees, even the one that rings up the cash register, have caused their margins to be only almost 1/4%. And this is the delta that keeps them open. And now we may be hurting small businesses, not us, not you and me, Herm, but Virginia may be hurting small business by that Supreme Court decision.
Well, the first thing I'll say, and we've said it hundreds of times on this podcast, it's a shame because the hardworking mom and pop small businesses are already facing hardship trying to run and open and keep open their businesses in this environment. And the other side, the government or the Commonwealth of Virginia can say whatever they want to this action is being contested because the casino lobby and the out-of-state special interest want a monopoly on the gaming industry in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and they're willing to do anything, even at the expense of trampling on the rights and the needs of small businesses in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They're willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. But I got a question for you as an attorney.
Yeah.
Are you listening?
Well, no,
Okay.
I had to turn on the timer so I could charge you for it. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So, because I got one of these letters, you mentioned the Supreme Court ruling that you and I have told my places to respect, but we do not at all agree with. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. So once the Supreme Court came in and ruled, then the Attorney General's office had some communication with Commonwealth attorneys across the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I won't call a name or a location, but I will tell you that last week, one of my locations was delivered a letter by a uniformed police officer from the Commonwealth attorney from somewhere in the Commonwealth of Virginia that I operate convenience stores in. I passed the letter on to you. It basically says, want to make sure that I was aware that the Supreme Court had ruled to vacate the injunction and that we had to have our skill games removed by November the 19th, if not face potential legal or civil penalties, which could be up to $25,000 fine per machine.
Right.
Okay. So my question to you is, because I know other convenience store owners have this same question. In my stores, we have the Queen of Virginia style video-based skill games. We've got your basic coin pusher type games where you move the knob around and at the appropriate time when you think gives you the best chance to win, drop a coin down, the coins get pushed out and you can get coins or dollars or any other kind of revenue. We've also got crane games where you can put $1 in and go in and reach down and get merchandise or cash or other things out of crane games. And we've also got what I would refer to as amusement style games like Pac-Man, Galaga, Centipede, Golden Tee, all these kind of things. So as a convenience store operator who has always legally operated legitimate skill games, when I get this letter from a police officer that's handed to me, if you're me or if you're one of these convenience store owners that is trying to keep up with what's right and what's wrong because of all the confusion, if you're a convenience store owner, Bill, and the police officer brings you that letter, what skill games are you having to turn off?
Well, because the statute that they're relying upon, that was, again, we've said this before, was written into the budget, amending the criminal code, trying to go around to what we had already established that, and the Supreme Court agreed was unconstitutional writing in SB 971. The new stuff actually is even worse. So what it does is it creates, I think, a wide net that as long as it's in the video genre, if it's in the video genre, and also if it pays out a prize that is not what the statute stupidly calls an appropriate reward, which has a god-awful definition, Hermie, that means every game. Because of Miss Pac-Man, you can play, and based on the skill of the player, you can get free lives. Those free lives are worth a quarter or whatever, and maybe it's 50 cents to play it. That's money. And there's an internal clock in there, and that keeps that score. That's what they said was illegal. So that's illegal. The crane games, because it pays a reward. You put in 50 cents, you get a $5 teddy bear, and you can do it over and over and over again. And it's based on skill. That's illegal. Now all of your skee ball, illegal. Golden Tee, illegal. Galaga, illegal. Asteroids, illegal. And Queen of Virginia skill games. It casts a wide net, and now everything's illegal. So if I was your lawyer and I'm looking at this letter, and I'm looking at it right now, because of the unconstitutionally vague and overbroad writing of this new criminal statute in the budget trying to ban skill games, they've banned every damn game, and especially every damn video game. And so I'd tell you to turn off your pinball machines. And I think that's the problem. And you know, I think that's the scary part, is that then you're going to see selective enforcement by these Commonwealth's attorneys. And one of the letters you sent me was from a county attorney, which is the civil attorney. If you read the statute and they kind of interpret it, I don't even think they understand what is a regulated location where these games cannot be. If you have it turned off, you've turned it off, you've dismantled it, but it's sitting in your store based on the way the law is written, you can still be fined for possessing it, even though it's not running. They've tried to turn criminal to good paying, tax-paying people, good businessmen into criminals overnight, and they don't know what the hell to hit them with because the law is so bad. So my answer, in a long way, because I'm still billing, the timer's still on, is that all games are banned. All skill games are banned right now. It's not just the Queen of Virginia or the vanilla games, but I bet you 110%, Herm, that they're only going to go after those games, not going to go after the other games of skill, because in their mind, that's not what the law applies. But see, that shows selective enforcement, and yet another reason why this new law is unconstitutional and why we fight.
What about, and this is really for my information too, that I can pass along to other people, but okay, so with this new vacating of the injunction, what does it mean for Dave and Buster's or Chuck E. Cheese or King's Dominion? Or, I mean, a couple of weeks ago when the State Fair of Virginia was operating, were they technically operating illegal games while they were at the State Fair? So why is there a difference between Sadler Truck Stop and Dave and Buster's? What's the deal?
One would think no. One would think that those are gambling parlors according to the Supreme Court and according to the statute. And I just pulled up the statute so everybody can understand this. Chuck E. Cheese and Dave and Buster's have illegal games in the same way that they're saying now that truck stops, bars, restaurants, and convenience stores have. Because the games such as they have, whether it's Centipede or a hatchet throwing game, you and I played those games and videotaped it at Dave and Buster's for our court case. But each one of those video games necessarily contains a, quote, measurement device that records the number of free games. Now, into the statute, they say, well, there's an exception for amusement devices. And one would say, okay, the ones in Chuck E. Cheese and in Dave and Buster are amusement devices. An amusement device is legal under this new convoluted legislation through the budget, so long as the amusement device does not cash out anything more than what's called an appropriate award. But then you have the statute again that says, well, then an amusement device cannot contain a meter or measurement device to record the number of free games or portions of games that are awarded. So if you look at it, everything in Dave and Buster's do not qualify under the amusement device exception and are prohibited as skill games, regardless of whether they award a cash prize or not. And you and I both know that in Dave and Buster's, you can win thousands of dollars. You can win. We went to the prize room and they had Cuisinarts and TVs and stuff that if you play the games enough, you get something that's definitely not an appropriate reward. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may be going into a criminal enterprise at Chuck E. Cheese. That rat gets it again based on this stupid ass law. And that's how, just by way of example, Herman, I'm glad you asked that demonstrates that this law has no constitutionality to it. It has no legs, and it's really been put out there to go after one type of skill game. However, they've thrown a big net, and they're going to catch every type of skill game, whether it be at the State Fair, King's Dominion, Chuck E. Cheese, or Dave & Buster's, or Sadler's Travel Plaza in Emporia. So, they still have a mess on their hands. And right now, it's amazing that I bet you 100% that all these letters that, convenience store owners are getting right now, Chuck E. Cheese hasn't got one. I'm just going to bet on it. And I know I'm right. You know why? Because they're creating exemptions for those establishments that aren't there, not under the law. They should be sending the same cease and desist letters to those guys. And if they don't, then it shows that this law does not apply to everybody. It's inartfully applied, and it's unconstitutional.
So would I be in a different box if I filed paperwork today, maybe doing business as, and changed the name of Sadler Travel Plaza to Sadler Travel Plaza Family Entertainment Center?
I wish it was that easy, like Hermie cheeses. I think no, because it's the game. It's the look of the game. It's the video concept of the game. It's that makes, at least on certain of the games, but it doesn't end there because, again, if it offers a reward like a crane game or a coin pusher, even though that may not have a video type aesthetic feel to it, that's still illegal. So again, you could change your name, but you're just as illegal as Dave & Buster's and Chuck E. Cheese. Now, if you put a mouse out there or something and you put up kids' party tables and have birthday cakes, maybe they won't come and punish you, but they already know that you're the one fighting for it. So I wouldn't recommend doing it because it's just not going to change it. But they're going to get the free pass when they're not allowed, and you're not, and convenience store owners are not, because of the casino monopoly having such a stranglehold over Virginia government. And so what we've got to do is try to figure out a way. I mean, I'm telling you right now, there's some angry convenience store owners out there who are wondering, why isn't the governor resolving this? Why is the attorney general pushing this? And those are great questions. They asked me those questions. I'm going to go meet with them again this week. I'm driving up to Richmond tomorrow. I don't have a great answer. But if it costs us an election that keeps the Republicans from winning the Senate or the House of delegates, then I'm going to be one pissed hombre. And I'm going to want some butts. And this is just unfortunate. There's an easy way of fixing this, and we need to get out there and do it. And so we're confident in our court case. We're going to win. But you know what? The government has an opportunity. The governor, the attorney general have an opportunity of taking care of this in a way that would not have to have these games shut down, would not have these disparities in enforcement between the Chuck E. Cheeses and the Sadler Travel Plazas. But instead, right now, they do nothing. And that is unfortunate, Herm. So that's where we are, buddy.
And then on top of everything else, it's a lot of people are going to suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, when those convenience stores, 800 to 900 shut down, they're not going to reopen, man, just because you get the games back on next year. People ought to be very careful of what they've created, but that's where we are right now. That's what we've got going. Hermie has big shoulders. He's carrying the weight of all our small business owners and allowing that, what was that word again, or that phrase, free market system to reign supreme here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where freedom got its very start here on this blessed land. Hermie,
which by the way, I encourage all legislators that call themselves Republicans, from the governor all the way down, to read the Republican Creator of Virginia. That the first thing it talks about is protecting the free market system, and why our people that have been elected to put in a position to try to do that, especially when all we're asking for and all we're fighting for is fair government and a level playing field. They could so easily help make that happen. Just make it fair for everybody. But to appeal to or appease to the casino lobby, they are for some reason forgetting about the Republican Creator of Virginia.
Yep. And the Republican Creator of Virginia, the party he's talking about, says, we believe that the free enterprise system is the most productive supplier of human needs and economic justice.
There you go.
No better words are spoken when it comes to that. And the second one is we believe that all individuals are entitled to equal rights, justice, and opportunities, and should assume their responsibilities as citizens in a free society, which also pertains to this.
There you go.
So let's hope maybe we work it out here before we go to court. Otherwise, we got motions hearing coming up pretty soon, and then we got a trial December 15th through the 18th. Is that about right?
18th to the 20th.
Thank God you're here to tell me that. Or I'd miss the court dates. So that's our first segment, ladies and gentlemen. We've got coming up the King, Richard Petty, and Frank Scott in a legendary conversation hosted by Warrick Scott and the New College Institute and the Wendell Scott Foundation, two great partners doing great things in Southside Virginia. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, Herm. Congratulations on your baby, your grandbaby. Well, maybe your baby in the future here, 9 months from now, if this whole thing that we worked out, your little strategy works with Angie. But
I'll be giving you a live report from the bedroom tonight.
All right, just audio. But congratulations on being a granddad. I love it, man. You look proud and happy, and I love it. Give my best to your daughters and your wife, and we'll see you next week. But hang on here. You're going to have Richard Petty, Frank Scott, legendary conversations at the New College Institute in Martinsville during race weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley. I'm Hermie's friend. I'm Hermie's race car co-owner, kind of, and I'm leaning right.
I'm Hermie Sadler, and I'm turning left, leaning right and turning left with Sadler and the Senator. It's powered by Pace-O-Matic. We'll be right back. Hi, folks. This is Hermie Sadler. Thanks for listening to our all-new podcast, Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I hope you are enjoying the show as much as Senator Stanley and I enjoy bringing it to you. Whether you're a family traveling together or a truck driver hauling freight up and down the highway, I hope you will take the time to visit one of our Sadler Travel Plaza locations in Virginia and North Carolina. Sadler Travel Plaza locations are licensed dealer locations for Pilot Travel Centers, and we also carry Shell Motiva petroleum products for our four-wheel friends. We pride ourselves on providing one-stop shopping for service, food, and entertainment. Our food options include Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Quiznos, Dairy Queen, Hermie Sadler's Faux Show Bar and Grill, Victory Lane Restaurant, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and much, much more. Our locations include Sadler Travel Plaza in South Hill, located off I-85 at exit 12. The Sadler Travel Plaza of Emporia, which is conveniently located on exit 11B off I-95, and Sadler Travel Plaza on Highway 58 in Suffolk. We also have our North Carolina location, Sadler Travel Plaza in Dunn, North Carolina. That's exit 75 off I-95. We appreciate all of our customers, and Bill and I appreciate you listening to Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Hey, this is Bill Stanley, Hermie Sadler's sidekick on this podcast. When I'm not in Richmond at the Capitol or doing this podcast, my real job for the past 27 years is as a trial attorney with the Stanley Law Group. Here at the Stanley Law Group, we represent our clients in every courthouse in the Commonwealth. No problem is too small for us to solve. No case is too big for us to win. Whether it's criminal charges, traffic offenses, civil disputes, litigation matters of any sort, we handle it all. We make sure that we treat every client like family because they are to us. Your problem is our problem. Your success is our success because we hate to lose more than we love to win. And believe me, we win a lot. Don't believe me? Go ask Hermie. I'm his favorite lawyer, and he hates lawyers. So give us a call at 540-721-6028 and let us help you. Or visit our website at www.vastanleylawgroup.com. That's www.vastanleylawgroup.com. At the Stanley Law Group, we'll make sure we're the lawyers that you swear by and not at.
All right, it's a running joke in the room. Yes, my nose was running, but I have cleared my sinuses. So, welcome everyone. My name is Warrick Scott. I am the CEO of the Wendell Scott Foundation. We are here tonight, this evening, celebrating a momentous occasion. Obviously, Martinsville Race Week is a huge event here in the South Side of Virginia, and we are most proud to be a part of that. And obviously, as you can see here tonight, we have some legends on stage to help commemorate this race happening, but also the evolution of the Wendell Scott brand and the Wendell Scott Foundation. So welcome to Legendary Conversations. This is our second installment of Legendary Conversations. And we find it extremely appropriate to be able to have you all here with us this evening. Okay, so with no further ado, we want to get involved. We're going to have some intimate conversations. We have two legendary individuals here on stage with us this evening. I'll start with my father, Mr. Frank Scott. All right, let's give him a big round of applause. Here locally, he is known as Coach Scott. I'm sure some of us know him as Coach Scott. But before he was Coach Scott, he spent his entire childhood as one of my grandfather's most trusted confidants. He was one of the original members of the first African-American pit crew to ever exist within NASCAR. And he went on to grow and mature into the role of crew chief for my grandfather. And so he holds several distinctions, including being the first African-American crew chief in the history of NASCAR. And I think that's worth a round of applause. He's also a world-class grandfather, world-class uncle, world-class dad. And that deserves a round of applause. Now, long before there were people like Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, people like that, there was a gentleman who was the most prolific NASCAR driver of his era, of his time, in my opinion, ever. Okay. He is someone who has led by example throughout the duration of his career. His heart, the generosity, the philanthropy that he has brought forth is untold and, in my opinion, unrivaled. He has certainly stepped in and filled a great void in my life as I have championed my grandfather's legacy and continued to do the work to uplift his name. But this particular gentleman has stood next to me and with me and spent great time with me, giving me great knowledge, great tutelage. And I've had a wonderful opportunity to spend time with his family who's here with us tonight. And so, like I said, long before there was a Tom Brady with his, how many rings? Six ring. Jordan had 6. Well, who we have here tonight, and we should get excited about this. We have the 7-time, I'm going to say it, 7-time NASCAR champion. The king himself, Mr. Richard Petty. Yeah. So, we have many distinguished people here in the audience tonight, and I don't want to start naming names because I feel like I may forget. But as the conversation is going on, we'll be sure to point out certain people that play a specific role in the conversation in regards to what entity they do represent. Okay, so with no further ado, I know you all have been waiting. Let's get this legendary conversation going. All right. So, okay. All right. So, gentlemen.
How old do you think I am?
Are you somewhere right in 40? You 45-ish.
You had me playing with Babe Ruth.
I didn't say babe, but you know, you look so good. You've held on for so you look so good that I don't think.
Doesn't it look good?
Doesn't it look good? Right. You know,
I've never done anything dangerous. I've always walked a straight line.
Always walk the straight line. But I think some of your fans in the audience may beg to differ, but we'll get a little deeper into that. This conversation this evening is rather intricate and extremely unique. For as much as you think you know about the Petty family, or as much as you think you know about the Scott family, what you will hear tonight are some intricate conversations and some valuable memories that these gentlemen share about their upbringing, about their trajectory through the sport, and even how it feeds into today in regards to STEM education, diversity, and all the things that matter to all of us who want to focus on a better community. What I would like to start with is I would like to ask you guys, when do you remember meeting? Daddy, what's your first recollection?
Well, when I first, in 1961, we were racing in Bristol. And I was too young to get a miner's release license at the time. So Morris Mepcap, anyway, he asked Miss Petty, his wife, if she would take me under her wing. She taught me how to score. And flip, she said, how you do when the thing flipped down, write that number. And the most amazing thing was she asked me if I wanted some lunch. You know, I hadn't had anything to eat. I said, yes, ma'am. He said, well, I got some sandwiches here. I said, boy, I'm getting ready to eat some roast beef now. She had me a sandwich, best sandwich I ever tasted in my life. It was pineapple, lettuce, and mayonnaise. Right, Rich? Yeah. That was the best sandwich I ever had, but she was very, very elegant and very kind to me. It made me feel welcome. We had just moved into cup racing, didn't know a lot of people, and she made me feel comfortable. So the relationship grew from then. And Daddy and Richard, they were just, just ex-buzz. He was just thought the world of him. If we needed something, we'd go down to Level Cross and get a aluminum radiator or get some parts that we needed. So that's how far I go back as a young teenager.
I don't really remember the first time that Wendell and them showed up. To me, when Wendell came, it was just another job. And we need people to feel the field more or less. And Wendell came in, and there was 3 or 4 of the guys that didn't really accept Wendell. The majority of the guys, Ed Jarrett, myself, a bunch of guys, it's just another race car driver. And so we accepted him from that standpoint. And I guess what I admired about Wendell as much as anything, he was a family man. When he came, it was like the Petties. He brought his whole family with him. You know what I mean? So it was a family affair. So when they worked on the car together, they went everywhere together, they traveled together. And so that made me take notice, because a lot of the guys, especially back then, they come with their girlfriend, or, come in and just come in and do the racing and go away.
Right.
But you notice right quick that Wendell was dedicated to racing. In other words, Wendell didn't stand for like my father. He said, if I work this right, I can make a living for me and my family. And I always look back, and Wendell made enough with the racing to be able to send his kids to college. I mean, that was just unreal to me. Well, I guess of all the accomplishment, to me, taking care of the family in that way was way above anything you ever done in racing.
I appreciate you saying. So I would like to ask you, Mr. Petty, for those who don't know, what led you into racing?
Well, I got into racing because my dad was racing. Same way as he got involved. And I started working on the cars when I was like 11 or 12 years old. And just kept working on the cars. Dad was lucky, was winning races, championships. And when I got to be 21 years old, then I started driving. So that, like a farmer and a farmer's son. Farmer's son grows up doing farming. He don't know anything else. So when it came my time to try the driving part, he said, there's a car over in the corner. Get it ready. So Bill Emmons, first, second cousin, been my crew chief all these years. We worked on the car. We'd work on Eddie's car. And then we got through with it, flip over there and work on my car. And so we got ready, ran our first race in 1958. So it was a start of a deal. And, I never drove a race car. I hadn't any go-karts or motorcycles, any of that stuff. So we go to Columbia, South Carolina, and we run the race. And I think I wound up 6th or something. And coming back up the road, I told Dale, I said, I think I'm going to like this driving. Maybe because when I drove, I didn't have to work on the car. Dale said, what always made a good driver was somebody that was too sorry to work.
Good point. Good point. Dad, so you, good point, as you started out at a very young age, working in the pit, working on the garage, preparing the car. What is your earliest recollection? So for those of you who don't know, my father and my late Uncle Wendell Jr. were working, building the race car at the earliest of ages. I would say I've watched documentaries where I think you said 7 or 8 years old.
Learning tools.
What a
916 was.
What was it like for you, or do you have a recollection of the first time that you were in the pit? You going from the garage, prepared the car, you're rolling. When did you enter the pits? I think it has something to do with a little age documentation, forging some stuff. But when did you?
Well, what happened? Daddy needed brother and I was 14, but you had to be 16 to get a minor's release license.
Okay.
We rode down. I was 16. Bruce and brother raised his age because he was 14 months older than me. We upped his age too. We were able to get the minor's release. We were able to go into the pits then. And so then when we came of age and we were filling out the thing for the license, he said, wait a minute, y'all been lying about your age. So that was what there was. But I was involved with my father, raced modified sportsman. Dad raced 6 nights a week and 2 times on Sunday in old modified days. Anywhere was a track, he put that tow bar and he'd go to the track. So we were racing. People said, well, he raced 495 cup races, but he raced another 2,000 other races everywhere. So I was always with him and we learned to do things and we all had a job to do. One of Dad's mottos is, you can't swim standing on the bank. And he wouldn't let us have a phone in the garage. That was another thing. Nobody gonna be called. You don't get no phone call. And
no cell phone?
Well, no cell phone then. no rotary phone. And I remember if we happen to just stop and not doing it, he'd say, hey boy, you can't swim standing on the bank. Get in the water.
Yeah.
So that was what it was. But it was a family affair. Everybody in the family pretty much had a role at some point. But it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. But this gentleman sitting beside me right here, I have most admiration for him. And I'm going to tell something, he might fuss with me. When my daddy got hurt at Talladega, he was in the hospital 19 days in Birmingham. When he got home, he received some mail from Richard Petty with a amount. I'm not going to tell him out. Then a few weeks later, he got another envelope with a note. He said, Wendell, hope this helps. If anything I can do for you, let me know. But he didn't have to do that. NASCAR didn't do it. They didn't do it. But I mean, that's been an admiration that we've had for him all the time. He deserves it.
Can you clarify to the people? Can you share? And you're talking about the Talladega wreck.
Yeah,
correct. Can you share with the audience the severity of the injury and what that was?
Yes,
because you were there.
I was there.
What that was like in that moment.
His left leg was broken 7 places. His pelvic was cracked on both sides. All his ribs were broken. His arm, all his muscle, everything was just a piece of skin. It was laying down on his shoulder. When the wreck happened, he started 58. Leonard Woods came over and tuned our carburetor. We had never had a 429 Ford engine. Okay. And so he was listening to that. He came and said, Wendell, David was already getting on the pole, David Pearson. He said, that car was covered. He said, you like me to tune your carburetor? And Dad said, yeah, of course. We didn't know anything about 429 or that big carburetor. So he rejetted it and that thing was flying. The first lap, they had passed 18 cars on the first lap. And and before the accident happened. So, but after the accident happened, it's sort of severe accident. And so my brother, Wendell Jr., took off to the site of the wreck. I took off to the infield hospital. So when I got to the hospital, I went in, his body was just like covered, sprayed in with red paint, his blood was everywhere. So he said, we got to get him to Birmingham. So ambulance, and they told me I could ride up front. I said, no, I'm gonna ride with my daddy. So I sat right back there with him. He was hurting so bad, every bump. So we got to I'm gonna tell you this, and we're gonna get off of this. We got to the emergency room. They said, we'll come back and let your father. I said, no, I can go with my dad. So I maybe put on the apron, shoes and everything. And the first thing they did was prioritize his injuries, which was that bleeding in the arm. They sewed his arm back on. this muscle right here. And so Dad was laying there and he did like this. He said, it left something in my arm. And I told Dr. Bliss, that was his name. I said, Dr. Bliss, Dad said you left something in his arm. He said, well, Mr. Scott, I can assure you if it was something, you couldn't feel it. All them needles, it was hitting him about 12 long needles. Dad said, no, take my arm back a loose. So I told Dr. Bliss, I said, do me a favor. I said, take the stitches back loose and just look in there. He cut the stitches back loose and all this. And he had a long pair of tweezers. And he reached down in there and picked up, I don't know if it was metal or glass, but he dropped it in that tin pan. That thing said, ting. He looked at my dad. He said, you know, I never met you. He said, but you're a hell of a man.
Isn't that something? That's amazing. That's amazing. Mr. Petty, if I may ask, do you remember a particular incident or accident that you had throughout your career that sticks out, one that was maybe more tragic than the other? To the viewers, I know we have some NASCAR aficionados here in the room, but some people just watch NASCAR on TV, never been to a racetrack, don't understand the embankments or the degrees or the turns or how the heat on the track plays into different things. And so what you're looking at is a virtual optical illusion. And there's high degree of difficulty and extreme danger every time those gentlemen crank up the car. So being that you have secured 7 NASCAR championships, certainly there's been some bumps in the road. Do you remember a particular moment or time where you just had a terrible accident?
The problem is I did this for like 35 years. And I had so many accidents and got hurt so bad so many times, I don't remember which one was the worst.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a good answer.
I've had 10 or 12 concussions, broke my neck a couple times, broke my nose, broke both shoulders, broke some fingers, broke a leg, tore a kneecap off here, broke both feet. And there might be some more, but
Is that enough?
the ribs, when it breaks ribs, that hurt worse than anything.
The ribs.
Because when you hurt a rib, I broke a rib, and you're hurting a little bit, you say, man, if I move just a little bit, and it hurts worse.
Wow. Wow.
So there was I think of all the accidents and all the wrecks, was breaking ribs, even though it wasn't that spectacular.
Wow.
Breaking ribs probably hurt the worst.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Let's pivot. We've heard about pain. We've heard about the pain. Mr. Petty, what was your first victory like? The first time you took that checkered flag?
It was in a convertible race.
Wow.
Okay. 1958, in July, we went to Columbia, South Carolina, half-mile dirt, and finished the race. Come on. And a year later, on the same date, I won my first race at Columbia. That was convertible. That don't count on the 200.
So you're saying that NASCAR ran convertibles? Is that what we're saying?
Absolutely.
We got a car in the museum down there, and what we did, we had the hard top, so we cut the top off, and we bolted it back on. My dad had run it 1 week with the top on. I done bolted it and run it the next week with the top off. But you didn't have but a couple of cars, and to be able to run both circuits, that's the only way we could do it.
Wow. Go to the Petty Museum, you'll see the car he's talking about.
Yeah. So your first victory, 1958,
58.
in a convertible.
But I ran a 59. That was the first win. Then in 60, my first cup win was at the Charlotte Fairgrounds in February.
Wow.
At Charlotte, at the old fairground.
Okay.
So that starts against the 200.
All right. That is amazing. All of these stories are just to me amazing.
Can I interrupt because I know time? I want you all to join me and thank the one, Shanique, Warrick, board members that's here. Let's give them a hand for what they're doing. Can I talk about that a little bit? I know you want to ask a question.
You Coach Scott. This is Coach Scott right now. Coach Scott is taking.
Okay. May 23rd, 1952, my father ventured into a whole new world. And that was stock car racing. He used to go to Danville Fairgrounds and watch a race with a friend of his. They sat in the stands, and he asked a guy named Joe Morris. He said, asked him if he wanted to do it. They said, yeah, I would love to do that. Well, later on, the Danville promoter wanted to get more fans, more African-American fans to the race. So they went to the police station and came up with the idea, let's find out some of the African-Americans, or whatever you want to call it, Negro, color, whatever, black, all the same.
Right.
And they told him that if you want somebody that can drive fast, there's a rumor he might be a bootlegger. He had never been caught. And he can drive. They wrecked 9, they had 13 cars in the police department in Danville, and they had tore up 9 trying to catch the phantom. They called him the phantom. He had a pair of glasses with the lens knocked out, baseball cap, and coffee tied around his face. I used to go in his drawer at home and go in there and play with him. He wasn't there. And so they came to the garage and actually he wanted to be a race car driver. So I love to do that. And he had some bootleg cars, but he won't put them out there. So he got a car together, and he went down there that night. He said the seat broke. It was jumping out of gears. He ended up holding in gear with one hand, trying to hold himself in the seat with the other hand. But once he got that feel, that satisfied, he was that way, But what I want to say is that Wendell and Warrick Scott left an indelible footprint in the history of NASCAR. Even today, it was joined at the hip. And my mother, when we were kids, my mother was always there, fix meals for us on the road. But that has never been something that we've forgotten as a family. We love racing. So many things have transpired, and since that time, my father had all types of slogans he had used to motivate you. He'd say, you can't swim on the banks. Things get too tough for everybody else. It's just right for me. Quitting is not in the plan. All that kind of stuff. I remember we were in Columbia one night. We brought the rear end out. We had this truck with a winch. So we pushed it over there, and the winch burned out. We got the rear end, okay, go forward. And got to load that thing up. I was laying against the car. He came by, he said, Frank, he said, one day it's going to be all right, son. He said, one day they're going to write a book about me. I looked at my window and said, oh, you're going to write a damn book about me. But since that time, a lot of things have happened. But we got a group of people that help us put the car up on the thing. But Martinsville Speedway, we raced it 23 times. Irvin Brooks, his dad and my dad were connected at the hip. I remember they had an incident up at Strader Field, and this group was going to try to attack my father. And Earl grabbed a 2x4 and got up on the back on the train and said, you want to get to him, you got to get to me first. But they were just friends, and we had a lot of friends in NASCAR, the Pettis in the Woods, and people like that. It's like people don't understand it's really a fraternity. Racing, it's a fraternity, right? It's a brotherhood, really. Although they might fight a little bit or wreck each other, whatever like that. But then they go out and eat dinner together. But so much happened, and my father was just, he just loved the race. He was a mechanical genius with no formal education. He could build. We went to Daytona. I looked up today. We finished 13th in Daytona in '66. Well, we had gone down and he was building the motor. So he said, let's go down to Holman and Moody. That's where the Ford Distribution Center was. I need some pistons. So we went down there and they told him, well, we don't have no pistons or whatever. He said, well, it's a heat outside. You go out, anything you find, because they were going to take it to the salvage yard. And then he said, oh, pistons. And he said, get a box. And we brought about 6 pistons. I said, this thing got a crack in it. He said, just do like I say. That's what you do. You try to question him, just do like I say. End of the conversation. So we came back and we put 4 pistons in that motor. Finished 13th at Daytona. and with crack pistons. And what he did, he took a drill bit and drilled a hole at the end of the crack. He said that won't spread no more. Bigger than the crack. He would finish the race. So he was a mechanical genius. He balanced his own engines. He did everything with very nothing like dynamometers and stuff. He would just weigh everything. But he was just a wonderful father. He said that he wanted to be, somebody asked him, what do you want to be remembered? First of all, I want to be remembered as a father. And then a race car driver. Not a black race car driver, not an African American, a race car driver. Okay, you understand? I'm gonna stop right there. I'm gonna stop. I want to tell you.
So it is Martinsville race weekend. And we are ecstatic about it. We have our good friend Clay Campbell here. Clay, where?
He's in the back.
Chilling in the back. Chilling in the back. Let's talk about Martinsville. Let's reminisce about Martinsville, Tad. So there's a story of you as a student at North Carolina Central University. And there is a qualifying going on. And you're late to the race.
No, I had a class. I had a teacher. I was taking a test and measurements class. He always wanted to meet at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. And you better not miss. So I couldn't come to Martinsville until after that. So I get to Martinsville, and the main road that used to come down, you get your pit pass in this ticket booth. And so I was coming, everybody was waving me. How these people, what are they waving, telling me to go for? So I got down there, and I was getting ready to get pit pass. And the guy told me, no, said, come back and get that. Your dad is waiting for you. He needs your motor. So when I come across the track, Dad is standing on the apron. He said, Frank, come on. He said, I need your motor. I blew an engine this morning. That's okay. So they already had the other motor out. Now this involves, at that time, that motor had 2 4-barrels on it. It had a stroker kit that we got it from the Wood brothers. And that thing was, but we had to change the intake, make it single, change the oil pan, pick up everything. And somebody asked me, well, how'd y'all pull that motor out of that race car? Here he comes again. We got a truck. He sold my dad a truck or gave him one with the big truck. Mm-hmm. It has a arm that swings out. You pull the engine out. So we swung it out. That's how we changed the engine. We didn't lift it out of the motor. We had a chain horse, and that was that truck that we got from you. That gas. You got it, right? Yeah, the gas goes.
So we did a segment with your son Kyle Petty, Coffee with Kyle. I encourage you all to go check them out. Wonderful, wonderful segment. So as we were doing this particular segment, Kyle saw the truck and he just got super excited because he hadn't seen it since childhood. And that same truck, I grew up in my grandfather's garage playing in and around this same truck that this story is about.
Well, this truck, it has 2 seats. And, we could take 7 people in it.
Right.
and on top of that, it had air conditioning. Air conditioning on a tow truck?
So Kyle says in the interview that when he saw the truck, it was the biggest truck that he had seen in your fleet of vehicles thus far. Do you remember that? Do you remember the truck brand new?
Yeah,
Can you share some memories of that?
Get a big truck, big box deal. Had a race car on a trailer behind it. But it was big enough to carry an extra motor, and rear ends, and all your tools, wheels and stuff. So up to that time, you had a pickup truck, so you couldn't carry a lot of stuff. So I think we had a couple of them. And as time progressed, we got a tractor trailer. So we sat in there. Wendell and them needed a truck. So, hey man, there's one sitting over there. We're not using. And so first thing I know, they kind of drove off in the video.
We needed a truck.
And that truck still remains in our family archive. Soon we will be working on that.
Did y'all ever have a pickup truck?
Oh yeah, we had pickup trucks.
All I remember is that great big long Cadillac.
Oh Lord!
Which brings me to my next point.
Lord. I
wanted you to talk about, so 'cause people may not understand how you all actually towed the race car. So my wife and I went to a race in Bristol and we were coming through Hillsville. And so I called my dad and I was like, man, Dad, these hills in Hillsville are very dangerous. And he said, oh yeah, we used to tow the race car with a tow bar.
Yeah.
Up and down those hills.
Yeah.
Can you tell the audience about the limousine?
Okay. There's a funeral home in Danville, wasn't Danville, Cunningham Youth Funeral Home. And they had Cadillacs. But this limousine, they went up into an auction up in Maryland, a 54 Cadillac. It had the presidential medallion in the glove box. Thing had bulletproof glass. It was an armored tank. So when Cunningham decided to switch over from Cadillacs to Imperial Chrysler, Miss Hughes gave Daddy the Cadillac. Didn't have many miles on it. So in 1966, going back, we'd work up until the time we could get where we were going. So Dad had an operation that December still had. He said, we got, counting the time, we had to be there by 10 o'clock, but they won't let you sign in. And so Dad asked me, said, my brother, when he was in the Army, he said, Frank, how you feel? I said, I feel all right. He said, can you drive to Daytona? I said, yes, sir. Because he was, and so we left down that late that night, and my mother was on the outside door. My dad was sitting in the middle beside me. My four sisters, it had a bench row, it had a row of seats you could let out across the middle of it. Four of them sat there. We had two guys, two of our crew mechanics or whatever, with us. They were sitting on the back seat. They had the best seat in the house. that thing. So anyway, I get down in Jacksonville that morning and meet the state man. I look down, I'm running 95, at least that. And I said, oh, Lord, Dad, I just met the state man. He looked up at me, sitting in the middle. He said, well, take him on to Daytona. Take him on to Daytona. We couldn't stop. We didn't have 15 minutes to 10 minutes to get no ticket. Or go back and get, So anyway, they didn't turn around. You couldn't see in that car anyway. We were pulling race cars, race cars. Mm-hmm. But I'm running almost 100 miles an hour. And so I just put it on down. And I said, well, on where they going to stop me, they got a roadblock or whatever, because he said, take it to Daytona. That's what we do. So that night we were staying in the neighborhood. We were going to, we couldn't get in the motels and stuff like that. So we stay in the community. Daddy would put the ladies in one house, put the men in another, people. And so we went outside after eating. I said, Dad, you told me to take that man to Daytona this morning. You know he gonna lock me up? That's all he said. I'd have got you. He was cool like that. He didn't never panic. So I'd have got you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. But Mr. Petty, what do you have a best memory or a great memory in regards to Martinsville Speedway? We obviously got Martinsville coming up this weekend. The playoffs are going on. This is going to be an intense race. The stakes are high. You are the best in class. Do you have any fond memory, like a particular memory of Martinsville?
I always looked at Martinsville as being a home track. It's like 65 miles or so, the racetrack. And we always had good luck. The first, I think I'd won a 100-mile race, but the first 250-mile race was at Martinsville, I think 1960 or something. And it was just one of the racetracks that, for some reason, it didn't our style. Our car, Bill set it up, decent pit crew, and had a lot of good luck. And so, we always looked forward to going to Martinsville. And back it was 6-8 years there wasn't no need, nobody coming except for Saturday, and so we always look forward, and we're still looking forward to Sunday.
Yes.
We got some new cars that we're running on these tracks, and they got a new tire for the track. Everything's going to be a little bit different than what it's been. So, hopefully we get one of our cars to run as good as what I used to run.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to pick it up a little bit.
That's right.
Guess how many wins? Mom, anybody know? 15 wins.
15. There it is. That is amazing.
Dad won a couple of 3 races.
Yeah,
In fact, I think he won a couple of dirt tracks. Because it used to it was dirt till 1955, I think.
Yes.
And then by the time I come along, it was all asphalt. And then they tore up the asphalt, had to put down cement because they kept tearing up the corner. So right now, it's probably the best short track. I mean, no matter where you sit, you can see what's going on at the racetrack.
Martinsville, stand up. You heard what he said. Martinsville, stand up. It is the best. That's a big win for the South Side because obviously you would know.
everybody knows.
Yeah. So I would like to act lightning round. We're running out of time here. I just real quickly want to ask you, Mr. Petty, and then I'll ask you next. What is your most proud moment? The moment that you are most proud of within your career now?
Kind of corny. My proudest moment is that all that stuff that happened, I'm still sitting here.
Absolutely. Well said. Well played. Daddy, you up?
Well, I would have to say my father's cup win. Amazing thing about him. In his second year in Cup, Grand Nationals, they call it, he set a half-mile dirt track record in Savannah, Georgia. And that record stood for, if you go back and see, half-mile dirt, that time he had stood for about 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
Okay. And then in his next year, in 1963, December 1st, he won a race in Jacksonville. A little bit about that race. That track, Richard knew how it was, one number of the clay potholes. So Daddy decided to soften up his suspension. How did he do that? Normally we run 2 shocks on each wheel, right? So he took, he said a D-shock car. That's what he said. Just had 1 shock on each wheel. And he also, left front shock was the softest shock. He put 4 of them on where he ran. He said, boy, I was just riding like I was a limousine. And I think, Richard, he took a lead from you. He broke up. Something happened.
Yeah.
27 laps ago.
We broke the steering.
Yeah.
That was as rough a racetrack as we've ever seen.
Yeah, that thing had holes that deep. But so those were remarkable things. And another thing I'm proud of is that we finally got my father.
Now, speaking of that trophy, and this will be my last comment because I want to leave some room for a quick Q&A, and I want to invite Clay Campbell, who is here with us this evening. I would like to invite him to the stage to join us. But this is legendary conversation, and I would like to point out that you may not realize that the Jacksonville 200, obviously, the first time that an African-American team owner or driver that's competing full-time in NASCAR wins in NASCAR. But we have someone sitting on stage that was actually there. Okay? You read about it, but there are not many people left that were there. And he was there. And so to hear him say how rough the track was and what the terrain was, I'm especially proud of it because I've always known that my grandfather made great sacrifices in order to provide for his family. And I always knew that he was a genius, especially through engineering. At the Wendell Scott Foundation, our platform is STEM education blended with mentoring. And so my grandfather, knowing that he was an engineering savant and could work those type of solutions and work those problems out, as I've studied my grandfather over the years, to be sitting next to Mr. Petty, and for him to just authenticate and say that, yeah, that track was terrible, right? You got to hear first. You won't get that conversation anywhere else. You won't find it on YouTube or any podcast. And so I think that's worth a round of applause all by itself. Now, we want to do a Q&A. Clay, would you join us on stage, please? Everybody, let's give Mr. Big round of applause.
Race driver. He's a race driver
Watch
too.
how fast I do it. Watch how fast I put it back on. Bang. All right, come on.
Yeah.
Small. So, Clay, can you share with us briefly the history of Martinsville? Really tell us anything you want us to know about the track. I know you made so many improvements to the track. The track has evolved. We sat on stage last year on the other side of the room. Having these conversations. We are so humbled and grateful to have you. This is NASCAR's 75th anniversary. This is the diamond year. Clay, can you share with us just anything that you like about Martinsville?
Yeah, and it's a lot being this is 76 years for us, but I feel odd sitting between these two gentlemen here. I'm on the boring side of the fence. Okay, I'm on the business side, so I don't have the stories that these two gentlemen have. But you know, if you look back at NASCAR, we predated NASCAR by a year. My grandfather founded in 47. NASCAR started 48. Wow. So it's been around a long time. I think you said it was paved in 55, right? So for my time when it was dirt and for my time when it was paved, thank goodness. But it's come a long way. And if you look, you mentioned the excitement and what it means to Martinsville and Henry County being the penultimate race for the playoffs. I mean, this is the one that decides who the four guys are that go to Phoenix for the championship. That's right. And I had numerous interviews today, and I said, if someone gave us the opportunity to have the championship race, I'm not sure I'd rather have the one we've got.
Oh, yeah.
You got 8 guys going for the 4 spots. And actually you got 6 now because 2 of them have punched their ticket to Phoenix, but you got 6 guys vying for the 4 spots. It doesn't get any more intense than that. So as Richard said, it's going to be a great race weekend, but every year to your question, every year we try to improve something. If you come here in April and you go back in September, October, you're going to see something different every year. And that's been the way we've done it going back to my grandfather's days. And, you know, another thing, number one, we wouldn't be here without fans. Yes. The fans have made Martinsville what it is, Speedway. And I say, when we sell a fan a ticket, we're not really selling a ticket. We're selling a memory. And when they leave, when they leave, it's either going to be a good memory or a bad. And if it's a bad one, somewhere along the line, we have failed. So I think that's one thing that has kept us relevant. And it hasn't been easy. I mean, for so long, we were the lone ship at sea, being an independent track. And by that, I mean, there's, 2 companies that pretty much own most of the tracks. We're part of NASCAR now that owns Martinsville. But when we were independent, everything was done, with us. Now, if I have an issue, all I got to do is pick up the phone and call one of my peers at another track, and we pretty much got it figured out. But it's been such an enormous life for me. I can't show everybody the picture, but I got a picture with this guy here when I was really little. And I've always said, people call him the king. He treated me like a king, excuse me, when I was just a little guy that didn't know anything. Same thing with Wendell. I remember I started to wear a blue coat to commemorate both of the colors. I know he had a red cart once, but I remember the light blue.
Yeah.
And was there anything special about that number 34 and this guy over here, 43? Good question. Good question.
We told NASCAR we let him run 43 with 34. No, this.
Yeah. But I'll never forget that. And your dad was always really nice to me. So got a long history in this sport, and I don't know of anything better than NASCAR.
Wonderful. Very good. Now we're running a little over, but that's okay. We appreciate your patience. God knows we are so excited that you are all here, and I would like to open the floor for a few questions. Yes, sir.
I went my first race when I was 8 years old. Is there a patent on the color petty blue?
Yes, it is. Special number on the podium, registered deal. You can find them.
Explain how it felt when you were racing convertibles.
Hey man, I never run in any kind of car. But when I got in the convertible, it didn't make any difference. I mean, if it had top on it or not, I wasn't looking at the sun.
Yes, Irvin. Yes.
Yes, but, hard. While it has for people one time, that was pretty hard though. I think none of that. While it has for people one time, 69 arena.
Wow.
I don't know if y'all heard me or not.
I heard you now.
Okay. I was going to ask Richard, he took some hard licks in his day, and I've seen him take some, but I seen him take the hardest one I think he ever took, and he may remember it at Asheville Speedway in a 69 Torino.
Coming off the fourth turn, blew a tire and hit a cement wall. And behind the cement wall was dirt. That just got down. And it hit the wall so hard, it knocked the windshield completely out of the car.
Whoa.
You mean? And broke all my ribs. How many is over here? And then the next week, we went to Darlington. And so I jump in the car. I go out. I run through 3 and 4 corners pretty hard. And then it takes my breath. I finally get the car stopped at the end of the road, at the end of the front stretch. And after that, going up, we got some pasteboard and we taped it on my deal. Before the race started, I took 2 shots of Novocaine right in the deal. Well, that lasted for about 50 laps. So, but anyhow, that was probably as hard as a lick, even though you've seen the car turn over, pieces fly off of it. As long as the car is moving, then most of the time people don't get hurt. It's when you stop, G-force all comes at one time. And that's the way it does actually.
Yes, sir. The jury.
Like that, Mr. Scott, did you ever drive or did you ever have the inclination to get behind the wheel?
My whole life I had the inclination, but I never got the opportunity really. But I used to go out and practice. In fact, I had a wreck at Bristol. G.C. Spencer thought it was dead and came beside me and we had already qualified for the race. And so the only thing Dad said was, "Wait, see that long mirror? Was he use that mirror right there?" But I was about to start and park. So we got a second car. We got the car that Kale drove for Junior in '66. We didn't have enough parts to put it together. We went to Savannah. They had a total of 65. That kind of ended my chance to really. So I took on a different role, for my father, managerial role, and I used to like to go out and run a few laps. They could let you do that then. They didn't, so I did that. But my brother actually drove quite a few races. One time my father was ill, and George Henderson, hold your hand up. One of our crewmen right there sitting there, George. Yeah.
You got to hold it up higher than that, George. Go ahead and let the people know.
But anyway, that's the part that I think I did all right. Can I close out with something?
I want to do a few more questions.
Okay.
A few more questions.
I want to share something.
Any more questions in the back? Can we get somebody in the back maybe? Want to spread the love throughout the room. Mr. Dillard, yes. Can we get him a microphone?
First, I just want to say, just grateful to be here tonight. We grew up in a history. Coach Scott was our coach, and he was like a great father figure to us as a coach growing up, and shared a lot of stories with a lot of our youth, just for the history that we have, that we grew up in, and we didn't know a great deal about what we seen, and we heard the stories. And I just want to say thank you, because Mr. Scott, Wendell Scott was at all of our games, and love that we received from the family. So sharing those incredible stories and history with kids that we had the opportunity, I have had the opportunity of working with along this, along my career has been great. But I have one question to ask as you brought up the truck, okay? Because I have been using this to talk to kids just to find that connection. That truck, is that Maynard on the movie Cars?
Is the truck what now?
Maynard.
Mater.
No,
Mater is okay. Now you got some Cars alumni up here on stage, okay? Mr. Petty was the first driver to enter the Cars franchise. But no, Mater is not particularly one of the Scott family's trucks. However, River Scott, the character that was in the last Cars film, Cars 3, is inspired and authenticated by us and was included in the Cars 3 franchise. And we're very, very proud. We're very proud of that. Now the 11 car, the car that is featured in the Cars 3 franchise is actually at the Petty Museum on display in Level Cross. So if you're looking for a cool Saturday vibe, put some music on, hop in the car, go down to Petty Museum, get some good barbecue, get some good history, get some good vibrations. And I promise you, if you are a car aficionado, then you will be more than pleased. Any more questions? I want to try to get two from the back of the room, maybe? Yes.
Yeah, this is from Mr. Petty. Y'all introduced the spoiler system into the racetrack years ago, and I was just wondering if it was a defining moment about, what made you realize that a spoiler would create a downforce on the back of the car to help with prevent it from like fishtailing around the curves. Was it a defining moment on that? And did y'all use wind tunnel testing to determine the angle of the spoilers on that?
Really, the 1966, 67. Yeah, Dodge came with a fastback car. They come to Daytona, and they couldn't run because the car fishtailed right. Somebody said, "Okay, we'll put a spoiler on." So the Dodge was the first car to have a spoiler. After that, then all the rest of the cars have spoilers, and now the cars they go through wind tunnels and all that. So when we used to run the car, then the car was lift, front end of it, but without the spoiler, the rear lifted the post, so the car got loose. And so somewhere along in the mid '60s, they started putting spoilers on cars, and then they started looking at aero, and now the cars are so aero that it's hard for them to run with each other. Before, Chevrolet might be better drafting, or Ford might be better. Now they got them all down pretty much the same. And that's the reason when you see Daytona and Talladega, 35 cars in a pile. You never used to see that. But that's when the spoiler came back.
Yes.
I want to start off by saying thank you for this event. It's been amazing. I'm new to NASCAR. I'm originally from Michigan, moved to Danville about a year and a half ago. My father-in-law is a big NASCAR fan. So as a new person to NASCAR, I'm learning so much. I'm being intrigued by what you guys do. Is there any misconception about NASCAR that you think you could dispel by letting us know so I can go tell others to get involved and learn more about NASCAR?
Who was that question? Just to the okay.
That's got a hard question. No, there are no misconceptions. I mean, NASCAR, we have a very good working relationship with NASCAR, and we consider ourselves part of that NASCAR family. Obviously, we're not going to agree with everything, every decision, but we're not in the decision-making business. So they make a decision about something, we have to accept it and say, well, they had a reason for it. So we don't have can't say anything negative about NASCAR. We have a good relationship with them. Of course, you all know that my father's in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and the director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame is with us. Kelly, would you stand up?
Please stand.
Stand up, buddy. invite you all to go and visit Petty Museum, come to the race. This weekend, a lot of things start on Friday night, Saturday night, Saturday, tomorrow night. Yeah. So it's a great thing. There are always going to be detractors, about anything. I was in a city one time and I went to this bookstore. I said, I'm going to go back and see my daddy's name in these racing books back. I looked in the index and found my daddy's name. This one particular book said, before Wendell got in the car, he drank a half a pound of moonshine and lit a 12-inch cigar, and all that's lies. One thing my father didn't drink, he didn't smoke. And somebody say they haul a little bit, but he didn't drink and he didn't smoke. So there are a lot of misconceptions.
Okay, what last question, go.
So, Mr. Campbell, when did you start giving away the clock as a trophy? And Mr. Petty, how many do you have?
Good question.
We gave the first trophy away in 1964 to Fred Lorenzen. The way that clock got started, it was just something my grandfather wanted to give more than just a cup, something that the drivers would put in a prominent place in their home, never intending it to be the significant, probably the most sought after trophy in all of motorsports now. You don't want to be around his house when it's the quarter after or whatever. I can tell you, it's 15 of them. So
let me tell you about the trophies. They give away a grandmother clock. It's just so big, and so his grandfather. I went to him and I said, "Look, I got a bunch of these. Give me one of these big ones." And he said, "Well, if Gail wins the race or Junior, somebody wins it, they'll want one." I said, "Well, when they win 15 races, you can give them." Once they seen the big clock, nobody wanted a small one, so they give away the big one now.
Wonderful. Yes, Miss Scott.
I think this is for my father-in-law. How do you think Wendell Scott's accomplishments and challenges have influenced diversity and inclusion efforts within NASCAR today?
Well, he broke the glass ceiling. And I think that drivers today, the minority drivers, actually, they standing on his shoulder. And you see an interview that he does. You look on YouTube. One of the things that Ned Jarrett was interviewing him, and he asked my father. He said, I guess you look back and you think, well, you wish you hadn't have done this or whatever like that. He said, no, I'll do it again. He said, what I do hope is that what I have done will inspire and help other minorities to get into racing. You can see that on YouTube. Just look it up. That was the comment that he made. He always said that. I hope I can open doors. Well, he predicted so many things anyway. He had a crystal ball or something. And, but he was saying that he hoped that what he did, he could make a difference for other people. And it has. Roger, Bubba, people like that went on.
you think about, too, that ironic part of this. Bubba Wallace won his first truck race at Martinsville, driving a pale blue 34, right?
34 truck.
That's right.
And commemorating Wendell Scott. Pretty cool.
I think that picture's down here.
It is.
Down here. Stop by there and look in there. Let me say this. I got to say this stuff. This is to compliment Warrick, Shanique, the Wendell Scott Foundation board, and all the friends. We have friends in this room from all over California, everywhere. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. You know what you've done. You know what you're doing. When Warrick decided, we got a call. My wife and I were laying in bed about 2:30 in the morning, and the phone rang. And first thing Mabel heard Warrick's voice. First, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? He was in the nightclub business in Raleigh. We didn't want him to be in it, but he was in it.
I was doing pretty good.
You were doing pretty good. But you told me you were going to be selective. People coming in, the big money came on in. But anyway, he said, Shanique and I have been talking about moving back to Down, out of Wendell Scott Foundation in Down. They were already doing great community things in Raleigh. Why not bring it home? So when Warrick told me that, he didn't know. That over 60 years ago, we were returning from a race week. We found a town we could go in and eat breakfast. We hadn't had anything to eat in 24, 36 hours anyway. And so we went in there and ordered breakfast. Bring them big bowls of pork chops and potatoes. So they set it out there, and I was sitting beside Dad, and he was looking out like a picture one. And I said, Dad, come on, master, food's here. Food's here. He said, no. He said, look out there. You see those kids out there playing? Some of them don't have shirts on. Some of them don't have shoes on. No telling where they slept. He said, I'm almost sure they haven't had any breakfast. He said, if I ever come well to doing what I'm doing, but he said, he ain't still racing, doing what I'm doing, I'm going to build orphanage homes all over the South. Kids just like that. And he put a caveat on it. He said, not just black.
Right. Well, I mean, I am amazed by our conversation here. I would leave it to you all to tell us, do you all feel as though this was a legendary conversation? Can you just show about round of applause? So with no further ado, we thank you all for coming out and spending your valuable time with us. We hope that you will leave inspired. We hope that you will leave looking forward to the upcoming race weekend. And please, if you have a chance, follow the Wendell Scott Foundation. Look for ways to support our work and our efforts. For those who know me, if you ever wonder what my why was, I think it is abundantly clear why I do what I do and who I do it for. We are completely dedicated to empowering and leveling the playing field and the odds for children that find themselves in underdog type of situation. And that's what we stand for. It is our life's work, and we'll be doing it until we expire. I want to take this time to, where's Joe? Come on up here, Joe. Come on up here, Joe. I want to introduce everyone. For those who do not know, this is Joe Sumner. He is the new executive director here at the New College Institute, and they have been the most gracious hosts. Wonderful with their facilities. And let's just please give Joe a big round of applause. Joe, would you like to share a few words with the future before we go?
I would just like to say thank you to everyone for coming out and joining us tonight. I want to thank the Wendell Scott Foundation, the Scott family, Mr. Campbell, and of course, the King himself. I believe this is truly a historic night. It really is. I'd like to think it is. You mentioned the second one, so let's call it the second of many. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. We've got the chance to hear firsthand accounts from men who have set records and broken barriers. And that's something that most people don't get to hear a firsthand account from the people that lived it themselves. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. My sincerest gratitude to each of you gentlemen, and especially my good friend, Mr. Warrick. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I encourage you all to have safe travels home. Thank you for coming. Get your radios and everything ready because it's race weekend in Martinsville and we represent the South Side. So congratulations. Thank you.
We'll see you there.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson with SaveWithConrad.com. You've heard me bragging on the podcast for years about helping people save money on their current house, but did you know that I could help you with your next house as well? That's right, we can get you into your next house with zero down. No money down loan programs are still available, and I know it sounds too good to be true, but we can do it for you. And by the way, home ownership is more affordable than you might think. We routinely turn renters into homeowners, and we hear back that their new house payment is more affordable than what they were paying in rent. Why would you keep doing that? Stop throwing your money away, paying for someone else's mortgage, and start building wealth for your family. And let my family help at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit to do this. We can improve credit scores down to the 500s, and it's worth mentioning, we never say no. We say not yet, but here's how. You need a game plan to buy a house, and that's where we come in at SaveWithConrad.com. We'll ask you, what down payment do you want to make? And 0 is an acceptable answer. And what monthly payment do you want? And then it's time to go shopping. Find out how easy it is and how affordable it is to become a homeowner at SaveWithConrad.com.